In this week's podcast, Lou tells us all about what she thinks of the new Bridget Jones movie.
I couldn't tell you the last time I enjoyed a film that much.
Love that.
You say it's a joy, but Charlotte was like, she said she was ugly crying.
We then discuss what our dream Hen-Dos would involve.
I don't think I've ever been to one that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. No.
Oh, I love a good Hen-Do. What is on our fashion wish list for spring?
These boots are just so good.
Yeah.
You know, the boots that just make every outfit so much better, and they're the perfect heel height.
And what to do if a colleague keeps stealing your ideas.
I would honestly say try and let it go. However,
It's all in this episode, so stay tuned to listen. Welcome to the Sheer Luxe podcast. I'm your host, Polly Sayer, and this week I am joined by Lou Huff and Harriet Russell to chat things new and noteworthy, our favourite celeb moments, and answer your dilemmas. Welcome. This is a fun little group.
I don't know why I said welcome.
I was going to say, welcome to your
Welcome
podcast.
to your podcast. Well, thanks for being here. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for weekly updates. It really helps us out. Let's kick off with what we're wearing before we dive into the nitty gritty. Lou?
I've gone bold today and I went for a white jean. I actually looked at the weather and I thought I'll just see if it might be a touch of sunshine. It wasn't at all. It's going to be pissing down the rain. But I'm so sick of just pulling on the same dark wintry outfit, although I'm still wearing a dark wintry outfit, but I just felt like the white jeans that gave a little touch of spring.
Breaks it up.
They are Massimo Dutti and my trusty Kate belt, COS cashmere knit, and a Nubin cashmere blazer.
Boots?
Boots are flattered.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I feel like that belt cost per wear must be like pennies by this point.
Pennies, literal pennies.
Yeah.
Probably, I think my best investment I've ever made for my wardrobe.
It is a goodie. Harriet?
The only thing that's really new are my jeans, which are Next. I have to shout out Next Denim. I have never shopped Next Denim before, but I had it recommended to me because traditionally I was an M&S girl, and I still love M&S denim, but if you're shopping on a high street budget, I would really recommend checking out the Next Denim. It's really good. Boots are very old Alexander Wang.
I love the heel on that. I really like.
Yeah, they're only
How are they
person.
old? They look like brand new.
Okay, well, there's a bit of a story. Last September, I did this wardrobe detox that meant I literally gave, I'm not joking, 15 bags to charity.
Love that. Wow.
Sold some stuff on Vinted too, and like really purged to the point now where I feel like stuff that I just have had for so long and never worn, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm going to wear it now.
That's great though.
So, but I don't think I'd have been able to do that if I hadn't got rid of like the stuff that was like, I don't know, blurring my mind when I looked at my wardrobe too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, these puppies are finally getting their
Nice.
moment. Cardigan is last season Zara. Raw neck is H&M.
I'm wearing a knit, which is Banana Republic. I think it's cashmere, so it's a nice little thing to wrap around. Long sleeve top from Next, actually. Jacket from a shop called Another New in Copenhagen. Trousers are
I
with
love that brand.
I know. Again, cost per wear must be
Yeah.
pennies with this at this point. Trousers with nothing underneath. Trainers are Adidas Japan. I've got these recently and they're yellow, and I feel like kind of like with your white jeans, with a lot of like dark. It's just my little touch of like sunshine.
The Japan silhouette is everywhere at the moment. We just put it in Daily Edit today as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I actually, do you know what? When I was in Copenhagen a couple of weeks ago, I went into like a really trendy trainer shop and I saw them in there. And I was like, I want those. I want to buy them. And the shop assistant was so rude to me. I was like, in my protest, I was like, no.
No,
Oh no, why
I'm
was she
not
rude?
today.
Well, she just like didn't really acknowledge me, and I'm sure she gave like no fucks at all about the fact that I walked out. But you know, when like I'm about to be like hi, and she sort of looked me up and down, and then like spoke to the girl next to me with an Hermes bag instead. I was like,
rude.
it's
Not
so
okay.
like, you know, like too cool for school vibes
Yeah.
in those sorts of shops sometimes. And I was just like, do you know what? No.
No.
And then I got them from Size instead.
Love that.
So, yeah,
I
okay.
actually do quite like going shopping, like going into store to like peruse, try
Yeah.
things on, but I always like to buy online.
You're quite good at shopping in person. Like you take yourself out to the shops in London and like have a little go.
Yeah,
and
I'll
then-
probably do it like, I don't know, maybe once every 2 months. I like to go and like have a look and see, probably at the beginning of the season, just kind of see what's out and about. But no, I just find, I don't like the process of returning in store. So I then like to buy online.
Right, should we go into new and noteworthy, where we share the latest things that we're loving, our must-have products, our binge-worthy TV. What are we loving right now, Harriet?
Okay, well, I think the two things that I put on mine, which was partly my weekend, was Friday night, I went to see Rami Malek on stage at the Old Vic in Oedipus. He's starring in it with Indira Varma, who possibly people don't know, but she's a very sort of revered theatre actress. If you're in that world, you'll know her. And it wasn't very good.
Oh no, why?
I don't think he's a bad actor, but I don't think he's a good stage actor. His performance is like, this won't surprise anyone who's sort of seen him as Bond villain or whatever, but obviously Oedipus is kind of like a duplicitous character. It's Greek tragedy. It doesn't end well. And I think his performance is like very subtle. It's all in like these tiny facial expressions, or like he throws a lot of lines away. Like he sort of mutters things or like says them as asides. And like as a stage audience, you're sort of sat there going, what?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
A couple of people on my desk, when I said I was going, they were like, oh, you got tickets. You're so lucky. I'm going to say to them, don't worry.
Oh, really?
What's really interesting is there's another Oedipus playing in London at the same time with Mark Strong and Leslie Manville. Leslie Manville played Princess Margaret in The Crown. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, Phantom Thread. Like, she's had some really big hits lately, and I would say that is like a 5-star, can't be bettered.
But as a production, why would you do it twice?
They're very, very different. I mean, the way they've been done is very different. The Leslie Manville one started in September, and it's just had an enormously long run. So, I don't know. Maybe
Have you seen that one too?
Yes,
Okay.
I went to see that last autumn. And what was amazing about that one is they have like a massive stop clock in the back, because they've completely modernised that one. So it's set on like election night, and Mark Strong, who's playing Oedipus, is like going to be the new Prime Minister of Britain, or is he? No one knows. And they time it. I think they put like an hour 40 on the stop clock, and they obviously do the whole play. And then the minute it gets to 0, the big reveal, that's when the revelation like happens on the stop clock. But you just think, how well must they have rehearsed that?
Yeah, that time.
So that every night, every
Yeah.
line is delivered at the right time.
Wow.
So that they get to 0 at exactly the right point.
Wow.
Very
So I just
impressive.
think there was more mastery in that one.
Leslie
Great.
Manville is the lead character in Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris,
Yeah.
which you told me to watch.
Yeah.
And like,
It's a delight.
It's honestly, that is very, very different vibes to Oedipus.
Yeah, very.
But that's the other thing, is like she's got this amazing range where she can play like,
Incredible.
you
Can't
know,
believe that.
humble cleaner from South
Yeah.
London or whatever.
Did you like it?
I love that film.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I
it was
loved
such
it.
a you,
It's
like,
nice.
you recommendation. You were just like, it's like a warm hug.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like tea and crumpets on a Sunday afternoon.
yeah, that
really
was
is.
so it.
Yeah.
It was, lots of joy. I watched that quite a while ago now.
Watch it again.
So you didn't love that, but anything you have been
Yes,
loving?
well, the rest of my weekend was largely taken up by Onyx Storm, Rebecca Yaros's third instalment in Empyrean series. People might remember, so like probably like a year and a half ago, because I think it came out in May 2023, the first one, and it was like this major TikTok hit.
Yeah.
It's called Fourth Wing, and it's a fantasy book, which I would never say like I'm a fantasy person, but it completely converted me. I would say the only other fantasy I've ever read is Harry Potter.
Which I think is like barely fantasy, really, is it?
It's got a lot of like human themes, hasn't it? But
Right.
I think that's actually probably the magic that works in Fourth Wing as well, is that ultimately it's like quite a human story.
This has suddenly come into my like foreground. Like, you know, when things, I don't know, I'm clearly quite late to the party, but I went on a trip last weekend. One of the girls was reading this series and she was just like, I am not a fantasy girl, but this is just like, I've raced through them. I've never read anything so fast. I hear it's because they are a little bit horny. Is that true?
They are a bit horny, not going to lie. I'll give you the page number later. It's in the same vein, if anyone's heard of Akatar as well,
Yes.
being a massive TikTok hit. I've read all those books, got everyone on my desk onto it as well.
For those that don't know, what's it about?
It's set in a fantasy land called Peromial, and there is a war college called Basgiath, which is where most young children go, but they enter one of several sort of areas of the school. But the like sexiest one that everyone wants to be in is the Riders Quadrant, which means that you're like the fighters. You follow, the main character is called Violet Sorrengail, and she joins the Riders Quadrant, but she sort of shouldn't be in there. She was being prepped for what's known as the Scribes Quadrant, which is like bookish library, nice quiet life. And she's sort of not against her will, but sort of unexpectedly put into Riders Quadrant, and it's following her story. And this is not really a spoiler because the series is now going to be 5 books long. Onyx Storm is number 3. But what you quickly find out in Fourth Wing is that like what they're telling them about kind of the state of the country and all the military operations they have to go on are like not really what they seem. And so Violet and her friends and some of her superiors, they kind of start to unravel what's actually going on, and you sort of follow their story as they try and save the world.
Fascinating.
I mean, I always like to keep an open mind about these things because that doesn't really sound that like my kind of book. But then obviously it's been wildly popular.
Wildly successful.
So maybe I'll add it to my list.
Yeah.
Would you say like if you're like a Game of Thrones sort of fan,
Yeah.
maybe that would be your thing? Okay.
Up your street. And interestingly, I have never watched Game of Thrones until Aaron made me now watch all of Game of Thrones. We're in like the beginning of the 3rd season, and guys, I'm struggling.
Oh,
You
really?
don't like it?
No, I don't like it.
Interesting.
It's like every episode is like, it's not glorifying it, but like every episode includes some sort of horrific violence against women. And I can't like look forward to it.
Yeah. I've never been able to get into any of those fantasy films, drama, anything.
It's not really the fantasy that bothers me in Game of Thrones. It's like the literal, like, we're going to whip this woman.
Yeah, it is quite.
just can't
there's
do
some
it.
weird themes in Game of Thrones. I actually weirdly like never watched it, and then you know the spin-off House of the Dragon. Well, actually, I watched the very last season of Game of Thrones, and then went on to House of the Dragon, and I like actually really loved the first season of House of the Dragon, and then sort of struggled with the second a little bit, but. Yeah, it is quite. I did find like a lot of it quite gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
But then it was so wildly popular. There's obviously got to be a reason that people loved it. But
Yeah,
not
and
everyone can love it.
Aaron loves it. He's read all the books. He's like, oh, it's the politics of it. I'm like, babes, that's not coming across on the screen. Because all they're doing is showing this poor woman yet again, like chained up to this wall.
No. Okay, well, maybe I'll give Fourth Wing a go when I finish my... I don't know, I feel like I'm reading some quite like light, silly books at the moment.
What are you reading?
Yeah, just mix it up. I'm actually reading a book by Claire Chambers, like the third book of hers that I've read. You know when you get onto an author that you really love?
Yeah, I love that.
So I
though.
read Shy Creatures and Small Pleasures, and then I'm now reading one called The Editor's Wife, which is like a much older book of hers. But I wouldn't say it's like as good as the other two, but I still like I find the way she writes really easy and like nice to read. Lou, I'm going to come to you. I know you've got something fun to
Mine
recommend.
is much more lighthearted. I went to go and watch a preview of Bridget Jones last
Yeah,
week.
how
and
exciting.
By the time the podcast comes out, it will be on release to the nation. And it was such a joy. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I enjoyed a film that much.
Love that.
You say it's a joy, but Charlotte was like, she said she was ugly crying.
It like I
Wow.
was so at the beginning we were laughing so much, like my when your cheeks hurt. I was grinning that much, and immediately you're in there with the characters, and like I grew up with Bridget, and I feel like she's such a huge part of. No, I feel like close to her, you know, and I think she's a character that feels so legitimate. I feel like everyone can kind of find a personal attribute within her or someone you know. It was just nice to watch like real people in real life, and it's like fun and you laugh loads, but I think it's got a lot more depth to it than some of the others.
Really? Okay.
I think I'd probably say the best one out of all of them.
Really?
Yeah, obviously like
Even
the
the
first
first
one.
one?
The first one is so original and iconic, but I don't think it doesn't kind of get to your heart in the same way that this does. She's struggling. This is not a spoiler, but Mark Darcy has died, and she's a widow with 2 young children, and navigating that in her life, being alone, and missing her husband, and trying to raise 2 kids, and debating whether to go back to work. And it's just there's obviously like fun lightheartedness to it, but it's at its core just so brilliant. And I called my mum afterwards. I was like, Mum, it's so good. I loved it so much. She's like, darling, I can hear it in your voice.
Oh, that's so lovely.
But yeah, I really, really, really loved it. And it's really fun. Leah Woodall's great in it. There's some interesting cameos.
Oh, yeah.
Laura Bailey is in it. Not even like as a character. She's just at school drop off with her like glorious ponytail and in her tennis kit. Sienna's boyfriend, Ollie Green, is the sandwich boy. It's so brilliant.
Oh my God, I
go
can't
with
wait
a
to see
girlfriend,
it.
go with your mum. And I actually came out of it and couldn't wait to see it again.
Really?
And I think
You'd go again?
100%.
Okay, can you come with me?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, great.
It's
I really want to go.
Yeah, it's so brilliant and just warm, fuzzy.
It's so rare, I think, nowadays to go to the cinema and see a film and just be like, yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I
Yeah.
felt that with Wicked, and then I hadn't really felt that for a long time.
And just
so-
like all the kind of raw emotions, and just so good. Another thing I've just started watching is Paradise on Disney Plus. I'm only 1 episode in, but it basically the president is found dead. Again, this is in the trailer, so not a spoiler. Is found dead in his apartment by his head of security, and it is kind of unfolding how he died, his murder, etc. But at the end of the first episode, there is a massive twist, which kind of takes the show into a whole other dimension, further than just this being a kind of murder inquiry.
Mystery, yeah.
And I'm intrigued.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, if you're
Does it star anyone good?
so the president is James Marsden, and then the head of security is Sterling K. Brown, who is from This Is Us, and is something like 56 and looks so young.
Wow.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm gonna watch on.
Nice. Well, add to my list. Well, I've also got a TV recommendation. I basically binge watched one whole series of Am I Being Unreasonable this weekend, which is co-written and starred by Daisy May Cooper, who wrote and starred in This Country, which is probably my favourite British comedy ever.
That is so you.
I just absolutely love it and her.
Yeah.
So therefore, anything she's in, I'm kind of like, yes, sure, I'll give it a go. But the second season, I think, was released last week. So I can't believe I haven't watched the first. So I was like, okay, let's give the first
What's
season
it
a go.
on? How do you watch
It's
it?
on BBC.
Okay.
And it is very different to This Country, where, you know, This Country is like mockumentary style, whereas Am I Being Unreasonable is more of a kind of comedy drama-ish. It's got some real like darkness in it, actually. So the premise is a woman called Nick who is married to a guy called Dan, and she's basically not in love with him and has been having an affair with his brother for a long time. And it's not a spoiler, I think, to say that the brother dies in quite tragic, like shocking circumstances. And she befriends someone called Jen, who then kind of becomes apparent that she's kind of not what she seems and a bit too like involved and intense. But then Nick is sort of haunted by these like flashbacks of what happened. She's really kind of cut up because she feels like she was really in love with this guy she was having an affair with, but obviously no one knows about it. She was present when he died. It's basically like unraveling how that all happened, and it's very funny as well as being quite like scary at points, like, and shocking. And I just think she is hilarious, and you can really feel her kind of humour coming through.
And is she a very different character to who she plays in Our Country?
She is, but she is sort of still quite Daisy May Cooper, like, you know, just a bit sort of sassy and silly, and like the jokes are just like, you know, at moments where it is quite like, gosh, there's a lot going on here. It's just, there's like moments of lightness. It's really funny, and we just like whizzed through it. Like at first, like Harry was watching it with me, and he was like, I'm actually quite scared. And I'm like, don't be so silly. It's not scary. It's just a bit like tense.
Okay.
But we've started the second season and also loving it. So I'd really recommend it.
Okay.
Love it. We should also shout out the fact that it's been 20 years since the first YouTube video was uploaded.
I always like can't believe that, and I can believe that.
I was going to say,
like
part of
20
me
years
thinks like 20 years doesn't even sound that long, actually.
Yeah.
For YouTube,
Yeah.
because I'm 36 and I can't really remember a time without it.
Yeah, it almost feels like it should be longer, but also 20 years is
also
a long time.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about what your kind of favourite viral YouTube moments have
Mine
been over the years.
is Charlie Bit My Finger.
Yeah,
That's such a good
I
classic.
remember like the first time I watched that, like I just laughed and laughed and laughed, and then wanted to tell like everybody that I met, saw about this video and shared it with them. And it's just such infectious energy, isn't it? Like you can't help but smile by watching it. And those kids are obviously like, you know, adults now. It's crazy. But yeah, that was one of my favorites.
It was
I don't know if I have like a favourite viral one, but I was doing some research when I heard it was 20 years into like what the top like most viewed videos are, and the top one is Baby Shark.
Oh God.
I'm sad to say that I've given a couple of views to that.
I think we all
You're
have.
in there,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Guilty.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is that most of it is music videos.
Yeah.
And in the top 30, Ed Sheeran has 3 entries.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was another artist in there that had like a repeat kind of entry.
He's just got like mass appeal, hasn't he? It's
Yeah.
probably not even like the videos themselves that people are into. It's just listening to the
Well,
music,
interestingly, I think the
probably.
highest ranked one of his was Shape of You, which I think was about
Right.
number 9.
Okay.
And I do remember almost literally the day that came out, because it like my Instagram just blew up with people being like, he's dropped new music, and it is literally, you cannot stay still to this song. It is
Yeah.
so good. So I do almost remember like the day it came out and how viral it did go. So I wasn't surprised to see that one.
Yeah.
I just don't feel, maybe this is showing my age, but like that music videos are a thing. Like I used to love watching them. I used to
too.
literally just
We're
sit on
MTV babies.
MTV
Yeah.
and just watch music videos.
I used to come home from school and just like stick MTV on.
Yeah.
And, like
And-
one that sticks in my mind is that song that Pink did for the Charlie's Angels movie. I think it's called like Real Good Time or something, or Feel Good Time. Or,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's like so vivid in my mind, and I don't feel like kids these days watch music videos in
No.
the same way that we did.
No.
Like I would watch it maybe like in the same way that people would like scroll TikTok. I would just
Yeah.
like have
Yeah.
it on. That and fashion TV were like my two go-tos.
course.
And also like watching like the making of a music video and seeing those like massive
so
green
glamorous.
screens and them
Yeah.
flying and things like that, and like Backstreet Boys and like. But yeah, I just don't feel like there's so much of a
No.
culture.
Do you think it's because we didn't really have social media?
Yeah,
so to
probably.
get like this
Maybe.
BTS look at
Yeah.
celebrities' lives
That
felt
would be the
so
way to do it.
elusive and like extra glamorous. Whereas now it's like we can access every part.
One of my favourite music videos that was like I think it was like plonked on YouTube first, was a song by OK Go called Here It Goes Again. And I don't know if you remember it, but they were quite like indie. I loved indie music. And the music video is them they've got like 6 treadmills and they're kind of dancing on the treadmills that are kind of going different directions. It actually came up on my newsfeed very recently because they'd had a bit of a resurgence, and they did that entire music video in one take. Which
Wow.
if you watch it is just like insane. I think they had to do it like so many
Yeah.
times. They were like, we had no budget to like create a higher music video. We were quite like, starting out. We put it on YouTube and it just like, it really propelled us. So it just shows like, the magic that YouTube has
Yeah.
and had then even. So roll on the next 20 years, I suppose.
Yes.
Before we move on, please subscribe to the Sheer Lux podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us and allows us to continue making content like this. Right, shall we move on to our mustn't miss picks of the week? From the articles we can't stop talking about to the videos and features you need to check out. Lou, what have you loved this week?
I love an LG TikTok, and one of my favorites this week was about if you lost your makeup bag, what would be the first things that you would buy to replenish?
Such a fun question.
I love any sort of content like this. I love to know what
Yeah.
people's ride or dies are, like any sort of beauty, makeup, skincare, like tell me everything. There are a couple of Sapnas that I was like, okay, I've got that, fine. Okay, no, I haven't got that. I really need to try that. So it gave me some good inspo, but I want to know what both yours would be. First thing you'd buy.
First thing, it would probably be a brow pencil of some description. Right now, I mean, I go through brow pencils like water. I really like the Kosas one. And right now I'm using a NYX one actually that's only a tenner from the drugstore, and I honestly think it's really hard to beat.
This sort of happened to me recently.
Oh.
Well, like a few months ago. I went to Cornwall for a few days and forgot my makeup bag. And like that should have been an excuse for me to just be like, I'm going to go makeup free. But I was like, no, I can't. I need to go to Boots and just like buy a load of things. And I think the first thing I went for was also a brow product. It was the Benefit Precisely My Brow Wax, which I think is a really long and silly name, but it's a really good product. It's a kind of mix between like a tint and a brushy up wax thing, which gives my brows a nice shape. I've got like conversely quite sparse brows, but it gives me something. Lou?
Mine would be an eyelash curler. I look so strange when I haven't curled my eyelashes, but I feel like that just like immediately opens your face.
You're blessed with lovely long eyelashes.
Thank you, but yeah, they kind of go out, not up.
right.
So that is like the number one thing that will kind of make me feel a bit more awake.
Okay.
So yeah, I go eyelash curler would be my number one.
Okay. Anything else from the site that you've loved?
I loved your article on what the fashion industry is doing for 2025. I thought it was such an interesting read. It was obviously on the business edition.
It was quite a different way of laying out an article that we've done. It felt like a good opportunity that we were launching an edition in January to kind of look at the next 12 months and see where fashion's going more from like a business of fashion perspective rather than just our usual kind of like product focus. So yeah, I spoke to a bunch of people from influencers to like PR founders to Business Insiders and sort of, got their thoughts really on several topics, include like, I guess the most overarching one is like why luxury fashion might be struggling at the moment. We've had so many moves announced at the end of last year, still going on.
It's like musical chairs.
Yeah.
The most recent is Salvatore De Sarno is leaving Gucci, and that to me sounded quite abrupt because now they've said that his collection in Milan for this fashion month will be presented by the studio. I don't know if that means like he's still designed it or whether they're going to have to finish it.
I think he would have designed it.
But then we've had others, like I think I highlight in the piece, like Daniel Roseberry at Schiaparelli has kind of come out of nowhere, and that brand is absolutely thriving.
Yeah.
It's been completely sort of revived from its 1930s, 40s
Yeah,
kind of history.
the Couture Fashion Week, which we've had just before New York Fashion Week, that collection was so
Exquisite.
stunning.
It was stunning.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like that, not that kind of put him on the map, but like it's just going strength to strength.
Yeah, exactly.
Viral fashion moment, wasn't it?
And then we also looked at things sort of aside from individual brands. We were obviously talking about the row and sort of quiet luxury as an aesthetic and how that's kind of informed a lot of luxury sales. But is that over? Like, are people kind of getting a bit bored with essentially what is like classic fashion? But then I spoke to someone really interesting actually for a gold piece that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. And she was saying what people misunderstand about the row is that it's not basics. People think it is, but actually it is so artful in what they do, and particularly with like the campaign imagery and the shots they use for Instagram and things like that. It's actually incredibly creative. There's loads in there. It's over
It's
a
great.
three-
Yeah, it was
I
really
enjoyed reading it.
fascinating.
It's a real
yeah,
meaty
it's like a
read.
3,000 word piece. So
Yeah.
Great.
Get stuck in.
What about you, P?
Well, mine is a little more sort of silly and light-hearted. It was how to plan a Hen-Do. I am sort of in the process of planning a Hen-Do because obviously I'm getting married this year. And woo, and I feel like we've probably all been to a few Hen-Dos in our time, and there are lots of tips of how to plan a good one in this feature, which I thought were great. But I'd love to know like what your dream Hen-Do would involve, and if you've like been to any like dud ones that didn't
I've
work.
been to loads of dud ones, I think. I don't think I've ever been to one that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed from start to
Really?
finish. No.
Oh, I love a good Hen-Do.
I'll tell you my worst one. So it was organised by a 21-year-old maid of honour, which I think is where the problems began. Because and she's also not from London, but they decided to do it all in London. So I
yeah,
don't think she knew, for instance, that maybe doing a dinner on Friday night when everyone's been at work all day was like kind of not a great way to kick things off. And we were like scrunched on a table that wasn't big enough for us. And then she'd completely missed time. We were supposed to go to a bar afterwards and she'd booked it for like 10 o'clock, but the dinner didn't start till like 8, so of course
bit
we were
rush.
never going to make it, so we didn't, so we missed it. So then we're like trawling Soho at like 1
Oh,
o'clock
that's
in
the
the morning.
worst.
Oh, it was the worst.
You want to think about convenience and travel because not everyone is going to live locally and is going to have a place to go. So I think like moving to multiple destinations is always tricky. I think budget is also really important, like understanding from the beginning. Like I've had a couple where we haven't been told what the final price is, and knowing what you're paying up front at the beginning is better.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of, you know, if you're in or you're out, whether you can afford it. But I think when additional bits keep being added, that's then quite tricky.
Yeah, it's irritating.
It is hard, and I feel like, you know, as the person like organising it make be like a bit of a
Wait, so
a
you're
juggle.
organising your own?
No, sorry, that makes it sound like I'm organising my own hen. Basically, we're doing a sort of sten-do, which if you've not heard of it, is a sort of like stag and hen hybrid. We are not staying in the same place. We are just doing it in the same weekend abroad, I'm going to say very vaguely. I will say though, I'm so glad I'm a girl because I've booked this nice villa for like the girls to stay in, and Harry's like, oh, I've booked something for the lads, it's brilliant, it sleeps 25. I was like, oh, okay, 25 sounds like a lot of people for one place. There's like bunk beds in the picture. And then when we looked on the list of like amenities, it does have a pool, but it basically has nothing else. It's got no Wi-Fi, no kitchen, no washing machine, no like smoke alarm, nothing. I was like, there's no Wi-Fi. I feel like that is like a basic
Honestly,
human right.
the thought of going on a stag fills me with
dread.
so much dread.
Yeah, maybe men are just a bit like happier to have less of the nice.
Yeah, the nice
cutesy
bits. I need the nice
comforts.
bits.
I don't know. Yeah, I certainly need the nice bits. And I was like, were you gonna cancel it and book something else? He's like, no. Why would I?
Yeah, strange. What a
Okay.
strange decision.
Have you learnt lessons from like the first 10 to the second?
I think just generally speaking about like wedding planning and everything, second time round, I think I'm a bit less concerned about people pleasing. Obviously, you know, with hen planning, I obviously think you've got to take everyone's budgets into account. But certainly with like, I don't know, families putting on pressure for you to do certain things, and I don't know, just like convention generally, rather than thinking like, oh, that's what one does for a wedding or a Hen-Do. I'm just sort of like, no, what do we want to do?
Totally. And I actually think that COVID has really helped shift that transition into just do what you want to do as a couple, as an individual. It's your time, and there's so much tradition that I think has kind of gone out the window and left to interpretation now, which I think is so freeing for people.
You were a COVID bride.
I was, and I actually didn't even get a Hen-Do.
No.
So
What would be your dream Hen-Do, do you think?
I think probably my Hen-Do then would probably be different to what my Hen-Do now would be. I would want a small group, definitely. Being in a big group would make me feel really strange.
Yeah.
But I just think like fun, silly, girly, being irresponsible, and I think just connecting with your youth, but in a way that I can still go to bed semi-early and feel not too bad the next day. I would do a one-nighter. Or
one day or
one-dayer.
one night, like
I think obviously unless you're going abroad, but when it's kind of drawn out.
Well, I think ours will be 2 nights, but I think that's honestly my limit of what I can do at this age. I just don't have anything in the tank after 2 nights.
No.
What about the outfit planning? So I feel like that was something I really missed, because I feel like when you go on a hen, you can wear something really fun.
Well, you
really
had like
outrageous.
that gorgeous like white sequin dress, didn't you, that you wore to something else?
Yes, I had a silver dress so Georgie and I, God, this is so long ago now, but Georgie
Oh my
and
God, I
I
remember it. Is it Harvey Nichols?
Yes.
Yes, that was mega.
like Giuseppe Di Morabito, an Italian designer, and I tried on this like very, 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 very short silver dress, which just looked like I should have been in Girls Aloud. It was like such a performer dress. It gave me like such showgirl energy. I loved it so much.
So good.
And it then went on sale. There was one left in my size, half price. And I was like, do you know what? This is my hen dress. And then I never got to wear it. So I asked a couple of years later, I asked one of my friends if I could wear it to her hen. And I was like, just want to check this. Like, what's the vibe? And she was like, 100%.
What a good friend. Love
So,
that.
I wore it.
It got its outing.
Yeah.
Okay, on to Hot Topic next, where we chat all things celebrity, culture, and wider news. So what's caught your eye this week?
We've obviously spoken about New York Fashion Week being on, and mine has got to be the return of the Calvin Klein show. Probably like the most hotly anticipated show of New York Fashion Week. I think it's their first show in 6 or 7 years. Hailed by Veronica Leone, who's the new creative director. Calvin was actually there. You talk about the maybe demise of quiet luxury. Calvin Klein has brought that back again.
Yeah.
I mean, they are kind of like, the starting point to the 90s minimalism trend that's been everywhere. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy was obviously such a huge part of that brand and where it's become. And the show was just stunning. Kind of everything that you want a modern take on contemporary 90s minimalism to be. And it felt quite nostalgic, but modern and chic, and I loved it. And the reviews have been a resounding success.
I think that's been the one that I've seen the most about on socials, online, and Simone Ashley in particular I thought looked exquisite on the throw. On the fashion vein, it's not New York Fashion Week, but I really loved Burberry's It's Always Burberry Weather, kind of London in Love campaign. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's so sweet.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like the take on like a British rom-com. Like they've done it in their like Burberry tongue-in-cheek way so well, but so chic.
And they've done it in like a series of vignettes almost, haven't they?
Yeah, with a number of like, very famous people. Kate Winslet, Richard E. Grant.
David Gandy. Jodie Turner-Smith.
Yeah, so a real star-studded cast of people who are kind of something about being in love, being in London, and then it suddenly pours down, but they are obviously dressed in Burberry and being
super chic.
Romanticising that.
I mean, I'm so here for the energy, because I think what's been missing at Burberry, if anything, is that feeling. Do you remember when Christopher Bailey was in charge, and it just felt like every cool person in London would never have missed the Burberry show.
That was always my highlight.
Yeah. And like Rosie Huntington-Whiteley in those aviator jackets. Do you remember? Like, it's so 2015 coded, but I love it.
I think it was very like quintessentially British and that kind of Richard Curtis, but in a kind of modern, fashionable way. And it kind of left me feeling warm and fuzzy as well.
Yeah, it did me actually.
It's really cool.
Yeah, hats off Burberry. In our last segment, we answer your burning questions. So let's answer a few that have come in. First, I have a colleague who constantly takes credit for my ideas in meetings. It's frustrating because my boss seems to buy into it. How do I call them out without looking petty or causing drama?
Oh, so difficult.
I think if it's a one-off, or it's just like once or twice you've noticed it, but it doesn't feel like it's, you know, happening repeatedly, I would honestly say try and let it go. However, in terms of like not letting this happen, it's difficult to not know kind of like how her office works or how her company works. But I would say if you have good ideas, try and just keep them close to your chest. I know it can be really tempting to be like, oh, I saw this at the weekend and I think we should do this and this. But maybe just try and...
But then that's not very teamly, and it sounds like it's the type of place where they're all collaborating on ideas or sharing ideas. So then if you're keeping something to yourself, then how does that work?
I think I spoke to a friend about this recently, actually. She has like a business coach, I guess. And she went through a phase of being quite frustrated with a guy in her team or at work who always used to get the credit for coming up with things that she felt like she was thinking of first. But she said also that once she was in this kind of business coach setting, it had come to light that, you know, I think this happens with a lot of women where we feel like we don't say anything in meetings, you know, without really feeling like it's a valuable thing to say. And they'd kind of ascertained that this guy just says things like, even if actually like it's not always that valuable. And the conclusion was to like be more Pete, whatever his name was. So she just started speaking up way more in meetings, even if like, you know, she was a bit like, oh, is this the right answer? Is this a good idea? Just like pushing yourself out of that comfort zone to just say more. And then people actually, she then has felt that people are like,
That's
oh yeah,
good
great,
advice.
Abby's like doing X, Y, and Z. So I think, you know, women are a bit
Trust
more
your gut a bit more.
Trust your gut and just like say stuff and don't be afraid to kind of mess up a little bit, maybe. And then hopefully, you know, if you feel like someone's taking your ideas, maybe they're just getting there first.
I was going to say, maybe it's a beating them to the punch issue, because I was going to say that doesn't really solve the issue of if he's in a meeting saying, oh, I think we should do this. And she's sat there going, crap, like, what am I supposed to say now?
Maybe if it's a regular occurrence, maybe you take that person aside and kind of don't be petty about it, but just say, like, I've just noticed a couple of times that you've referenced my ideas, and obviously whilst we work as a team, I don't want to feel like...
It's a lot of I statements, isn't it? It's like, I would feel more comfortable explaining the concept that I've had, just to avoid any kind of like misunderstanding of what the idea is or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tricky one.
It is difficult.
Okay, something a little bit more lighthearted. What's on everyone's fashion wish list for spring?
Well, I just did my February wish list on site, which ran last week. So I'm full to the brim.
I thought these are the Kate boots for a minute.
Oh my God, I wish. Yeah, there are a pair of Kate boots where I basically went to Harvey Nicks a couple of weeks ago and did a full designer brand try on, doing a head to toe look from each of the brands, which was torture at the beginning of the season to try on new Kate, Jill Sander. But yeah, I've had saw some amazing pieces, and just like these boots are just so good.
Yeah.
You know, the boots that just make every outfit so much better, and they're the perfect heel height.
I was going to say, they're quite high though.
So I've got the original brown suede Western with the square toe, which again, other than my belt, have been one of my most worn pieces. And there's a black pair which are much tighter at the ankle with the same heel, so very good everyday heel. And then I saw Sarah Louise Blythe wearing the high ones the other day, and I was like, damn, that's so good. There's some really good high street jackets around. I just filmed a segment for YouTube on the best trans-seasonal jackets on the high street. There's some great leather, very Kate inspired bomber jackets with like a funnel neck. There's a really good one at M&S. There's a really good one at Abercrombie. There's a really good barn, like a denim barn jacket from Mango.
The dark
quilted.
one that was in your wish list,
Yes, very cool.
It is cool.
I'm obviously very into my silver jewellery, and Lee Studios, which do beautiful silver jewellery, have got a really cool hairband with just a silver,
I saw that.
like...
It's like a cuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like a cuff in your hair.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe when I enter my ponytail era, that would be a really good thing to wear.
I think you always look great with the pony when I've seen it up.
Thank you. My mum always says I look good with my hair up.
I feel like mums are always like, you look so lovely with your hair and your beautiful face.
Or a side parting, that's what she always wants.
Oh, a side parting.
Yeah.
Love that.
But yeah, there's some really good pieces. There's a really good Yarte flannel check shirt, again, which is really on my it's my look for, I think, spring. But yeah, so many good pieces, so do check it out.
Harriet, anything you've got your eye on?
Is this the Nina Bing blazer? Yeah, it's the Quinn, isn't it? So they've just come out with grey for spring, and it looks so nice.
It's incredibly useful, and it's a good kind of jacket blazer hybrid.
It looks quite light enough that you're not, like, you can wear it in the office without it feeling too coaty.
But at the same time, it's like a wool blend,
and
as
it's
opposed
like
to,
so unbelievably soft and warm.
and I think it has cashmere in it too.
Yeah, it is.
Whereas the Quinn that I have is like the normal twill.
Yeah,
blazer.
it's the same shape, which she's done in a variety of colours. But yeah, there's a
shape
cashmere
is so good.
wool mix one. Yeah, it's very straight.
Yeah.
Well, mine's a pair of white jeans. I still feel like I haven't found the perfect pair. And you've inspired me, Lou.
Oh,
So,
thanks, P.
Yeah, I feel like for spring, I love a bit of white denim.
Yeah.
It's got a nice transitional piece. All right, thanks both. That was really nice. A good fun chat. Thanks to all of you watching. Do remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends about us. It really helps us reach new people. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.